Thank you so much for coming. I'm Jenny Lodge. I'm the Vice President for Research and Innovation here at Duke. And I'm really honored to welcome you to the Duke Research and Innovation Summit. This is the first year we're doing a one-day summit, and so we're really hoping that this day will showcase the groundbreaking research and innovation that is happening across our institution. And I really wanted you to thank you for attending in person, given the cold, rainy yesterday and start to the new year, and the gloomy start to this morning and the cold outside. And so for the past 4 years, the Office for Research and Innovation has sought to convene the research community here at Duke for a series of events, panels, and lectures that highlight the diverse and multifaceted research and scholarship taking place around our university. In prior years, this was known as Research Week or Research and Innovation Week. But this year, we elected to build a day of panels, networking events, and our keynote address, the Dobeshay Lecture, celebrating the legacy of Ingrid Dobeshay, a pioneering mathematician and physicist. New York Times in 2021 called her the godmother of the digital image. And just last week, the White House announced that she is the recipient of the National Medal of Science, which is a huge national recognition for one of our top researchers. And part of the reason that we really wanted to do this networking and a single day event was really to try to bring people together and really enable more interaction and collaboration among people from all across our university. And so although the format of this event has changed over the years, the purpose remains the same, to bring together our thought leaders, researchers, and innovators to dive into today's most pressing challenges and how we, the Duke research community, can explore transformative solutions to climate, social health, and other topics impacting local and global communities. So a brief schedule overview. The schedule is right here. So during the morning and the afternoon, there'll be 3 individual sessions, and there will be 3 tracks, essentially. And the tracks will be climate and the environment, digital health and social determinants, and societal impact. You're welcome to attend all of these sessions within a track or go to sessions in different tracks. The discussions will focus on a range of topics from AI's role in addressing disparities to an examination of the legal, social, and health impacts of the state of incarceration in the United States. Each panel figures interdisciplinary and cross-school perspectives. We really encourage you to actively listen and engage with our panelists. Each session will allow time for audience questions and answer segments, and we encourage you to engage with those sitting beside and around you. Today's summit attendees include faculty, postdoctoral associates and scholars, fellows, staff, students, and other trainees, a true cross-section of our research enterprise. We want this to be an opportunity for our research community to engage with one another, to meet someone from a different school, department, or discipline who may spark a new idea or a new approach or a new collaboration. We want this to be, we hope you will attend as many sessions and events as possible. Feel free to stay all day and or leave and return as your schedule permits. Just so you know, if you do have to leave, bringing colleagues back with you when you return is encouraged. So to begin today's summit, I will have some very brief remarks, but then I'm delighted to be joined by our 2 newest Associate Deans for Research, Volker Bloom in Pratt and Scott Hattel in Trinity. As Vice President for Research and Innovation, I represent a part of the vast research enterprise happening across this institution. Duke, while it is home of well-known athletics, at its core is a research institution. And I think one of the things that we really want to sort of promote over the next year or two, we're working with our Marcoms team to really think about this, is how do we brand Duke as a fantastic top research institution that the world will be jealous of. So if research is the pursuit of new knowledge, then so much of what we do at Duke, from seeking new applications for metamaterials to untangling the connections between climate policy and financing, to illuminating new interpretations of ancient biblical texts, is research, scholarship, or the translation of research to the market. Therefore, in many ways, the state of the research enterprise is the same as the state of the institution: vibrant, imaginative, and poised for entering our second century, seeking to make a unique impact on society. This impact, of course, starts with the foundations of our research enterprise, the individuals engaged in the execution, reporting, and monitoring our research and scholarly efforts. Given the breadth of such activities, this means our research community is multidimensional and involves more than approximately 10,000 faculty, trainees, and staff across the institution. Duke remains a top-tier research university, with our researchers and scholars receiving over 3,300 awards and contracts in fiscal year 2024. And this equated to over $1.3 billion in external research funding, including support from our alumni and donors, with more than $863 million of that funding coming from federal sponsors. These awards, such as the NASA Cooperative Agreement in the Department of Physics, received for $10.7 million to investigate infrastructure solutions, for the Nancy Grace Roman Telescope, or a $1 million award from the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management to address key information gaps in acoustic ecology of North Atlantic right whales, will allow our faculty to continue working to identify transformative solutions to today's most pressing challenges. Under the leadership of Robin Razor in the Office of Translation and Commercialization, our research community also generated $82.6 million in licensing revenue. They disclosed 302 inventions and filed for 92 patents, and we started 6 startups this year based on Duke intellectual property. One of the exciting advances in translation this past year was that the brain cancer drug vorasidenib, I probably mispronounced that, was approved by the FDA, and this drug will bring much needed intervention to market. This drug is a product of collaboration between Johns Hopkins University investigator as well as Duke's Dr. Daryl Bigner in neurosurgery in the School of Medicine. Importantly, since 2006, the FDA has approved 7 drugs that have their roots in Duke intellectual property. This is remarkable. Many universities would be thrilled to have just one. So Duke is doing, I think, incredibly well in this space. Our faculty continue to gain entry into national academies and society. In fiscal year 2024, 5 members of the Duke faculty were elected to the National Academy of Sciences. 7 were named to the American Association for the Advancement of Science, and 2 were chosen for the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, and another 2 became members of the National Academy of Inventors. In addition, 4 faculty were named recipients of the National Science Foundation's Early Career Award, a prestigious grant given to early career faculty to support research and educational activities with the aim of helping them become future academic leaders. These are significant accomplishments, and I want to congratulate all of our outstanding faculty and researchers on an impressive year. I also want to talk a moment about one of Duke's undeniable strengths, the interdisciplinary partnerships across the institution. I was recently in a meeting with Blythe Morrell, an assistant vice president for marketing and communications, and she said something that resonated with me and with many others, that interdisciplinary science comes up in nearly every conversation she has about what makes Duke great. And I will echo that. I've heard this so many times in talking to faculty, in thinking about our future and what our strengths are. This comes up every time. And so Duke excels in the spaces between disciplines, and our researchers are open to different approaches, unlocking new and innovative solutions. And it's not just members of the Duke community that have noticed this about ourselves. In November, the Times Higher Education named Duke the number 5 institution in the world for interdisciplinary sciences. This is an exciting recognition of a strategic focus for the university. But research is more than numbers and figures. Although research data is foundational and sound research data management practices are always encouraged, research and scholarship are dynamic and interactive. The people conducting the investigations are as much a part of the process as the research and scholarship itself. We must also recognize that Duke's research enterprise does not exist in a vacuum. The work of our investigators, administrators, and the decisions of our leaders are shaped and influenced, and often in response to the larger research ecosystem populated by our funders, publishers, and regulators. Our funders and publishers play a key role in setting expectations and discipline norms, while our regulators define the parameters for the compliant conduct of research. When I talk to faculty, one of the main concerns they raise is the increasing administrative burden. I've been in research for a long time now. I'm old. And the number of steps and requirements that go on during research activities, starting from actually getting started doing the research to submitting grants, receiving grants, closing out grants, has increased tremendously over the past decades. And what I'm talking about isn't necessarily the steps and requirements that are related to research, but the attestations and certifications and check boxes that you have to go through in order to successfully carry out your research. And so one of the things I wanted to show you is that this is a graph that was put together by Koger. What this shows is the number of new regulations each year that relate to research. And it's that red line that is the cumulative number of regulations. And to me, as trained as a bacterial geneticist, and now I work on fungi, this to me looks like a logarithmic growth chart with no end in sight. And so I think one of the things that my office is really committed to doing, and what our philosophy is to say, okay, we need to comply with all these regulations. How can we make this as easy as possible for our investigators? We're just, and then on top of that, we're working very closely with our Office of Government Affairs, Government Relations, to really make sure that we're aware of these regulations, and we work with our association so that we want to be aware of them so that we can really plan for them and try to figure out the best way, the easiest way to stay in compliance in order to protect you as our researchers, as well as the institution. But we also we work with various associations to try to advocate as strongly as possible to ensure that the regulations that are being put in place actually are effective in terms of the goal that they're trying to reach, and also aren't burdensome, unnecessarily burdensome to us and to our researchers. And so I just want to be clear that helping our research community comply with these regulations is about protecting you, our researchers, and as well as protecting the institution. One of the ways that we can do this and enable compliance is through establishing various services that make it possible to conduct the research and make them as widely available as possible. For example, through the combined efforts of the Duke Libraries and the Duke Office for Scientific Integrity, researchers submitting NIH proposals, which now require data management and sharing plans, are offered one-on-one consultations. We've also given those researchers the opportunity to participate in a pilot project that will inform NIH changes that will inform changes to the NIH as submission and review processes for those data management and sharing plans. This service is a way that we at Duke can provide assistance to individual researchers while building knowledge and experience across our research enterprise to help all of us as we continue to comply with the NIH requirements. I also wanted to share 3 other exciting initiatives that my office is currently undertaking to increase efficiencies, reduce administrative burden, and proactively implement process and systems to move our research enterprise forward together. First, the Research Project Management Core, and I want to thank Jamie Wiley, who's sitting right over there. Not only did Jamie help put this program together for the Research Summit today, the Research and Innovation Summit today, but she's also been leading the Research Project Management Core. This core officially launched a year ago in January of 2024 and provides project management support for non-clinical research projects. In its first full year of operation, the core provided over 5,000 hours of project management support to 9 of the university schools and a wide range of centers, institutes, and central offices. We're thrilled with the growing demand for its services, which includes coordinating and planning meetings and events, developing and driving proposal timelines, team facilitation, and iteration of shared research goals. We're also partnering with the Duke Libraries and the Office for Information Technology to support the Compute and Data Services Alliance, an institutional investment in improving and increasing the research, computational, and data services to support innovative research. I will say that this has really been led by Tracy Futhi, who's our CIO, and has been incredibly enthusiastically supported by Joe Salem, who's our university librarian. And so this has been incredibly successful. In October, the CDSA announced the launch of its first service, the Protected Network for Research, which improves support for researchers who work with regulated and sensitive research data. Additional services are expected to be announced soon. And one of the things I want to say about the CDSA is that it really started with Tracy and her team asking researchers what they really needed. And so all of that information was gathered. We then worked with a bunch of faculty and others to identify priorities, develop solutions, and the result is the CDSA. And so this is really something that was led by really came from the ground up, the bottom up, to identify what were the key needs in the compute and data services. And finally, in response to and guided by ongoing discussions with faculty, staff, and offices such as the Durham Community Affairs and the Provost's Office, we have established an initiative called Reducing Administrative Barriers to Community Engaged Research. This is really partly in response to Stephanie Williams and Ed Ballason's effort and they have created a Center for Community Engagement, which will launch next month. But our effort is really to try to figure out how to reduce barriers to participating in community engaged research. And engagement, like the name suggests, this is focused on tackling barriers to community partnerships, trying to identify ways that we can make it easier for our researchers to work with organizations that are different than other research institutions. We know really well how to work with Yale and Harvard and the University of California systems, but not so much with a lot of the community institutions and companies or non-governmental agencies that we often need in order to really carry out the research and develop impact. So we're really trying to, this team that's leading this initiative is working to assess problems, understand administrative hurdles, and very critically begin to accumulate practical solutions. Now I want to sort of pivot a little bit. As the Vice President for Research and Innovation, I have the privilege of getting to meet and talk with a wide cross-section of our research community. During these conversations, I try to learn what is working well in a department, a lab, a center, or a school, and I want to hear about the challenges that researchers may be facing. Two of the people that I've had the pleasure of interacting with over the past several months are our newest Associate Deans for Research in Pratt and in Trinity. Scott Hotel has been part of the Duke research community since 1994 when he joined the Department of Psychological and Brain Sciences as a graduate student. After completing his doctorate in 1999, Dr. Hotel served as a research associate within the departments of neurobiology and psychology before being appointed as an assistant professor in the Department of Psychiatry. Scott now serves as a professor of psychology and neuroscience, neurobiology, and psychiatry. Scott has also served in a variety of leadership positions throughout his tenure in Duke, including the director for the Center of Neuroeconomic Studies, the interim co-director of the Duke Institute for Brain Sciences, and the director of the Center for Interdisciplinary Decision Sciences. He has also served as chair of the Psychology and Neuroscience and recently completed a 3-year term as the chair of the Trinity Curriculum Development Committee before assuming his new role as Senior Associate Dean for Research in the fall of 2024. Volker Bloom joined the Thomas Lord Department of Mechanical Engineering and Materials Science in 2013, where he now holds the Rooney Family Associate Professorship and is an Associate Professor of Chemistry. He heads the Ab Initio Materials Simulations, or AIMS group, and his research focuses on first principles of computational science, which means using fundamental laws of quantum mechanics to predict the properties of real materials from the atomic scale on up. Professor Bloom received his doctorate from the Friedrich Alexander Universität Erlangen-Nuremberg and took on the role of Associate Dean for Research and Infrastructure in the Pratt School of Engineering in the fall of 2024. I'd now like to welcome Scott and Volker up. Thank you, Scott and Volker. I know that taking on an administrative role can be quite challenging, and I'm just sort of curious What drew you to decide to take on an associate dean for research role in your school? Scott, if you want to start.
Sure. And also, I should thank you, Jenny, and all the organizers for putting this thing on. I know how much work it is to do this, so thanks for making it available for all of us. In my case, it's pretty simple. It's a new role. We have never actually had a research infrastructure in Trinity. And so the opportunity to help shape that, to try to understand our landscape, to understand what our faculty need, and help build out that office was really attractive to me. There's also a really selfish reason. Some of you may emphasize with this, when we do research, we get narrow. We are fortunate if we can learn about our area and the ones like right adjacent to it. And for the first time in my career, I actually feel incentivized to learn about the full range of research from all my colleagues. And I'm rewarded for doing that. So I get to go on cool tours and meet interesting people. And that's incredibly selfish, but it's one of the reasons I like being at a university.
And Volker?
Right. And so my reasons are similar in a way, right? I will say I brought my laptop because I knew the first question. And the one reason is on this laptop, actually, which is I have this I love Duke Engineering sticker, which I picked up a while ago. And that is really true. I joined 11 years ago, so my depth with Duke is not as deep as Scott's, for example. But it's an incredibly collegial environment. It's a top school in the United States, and it's a top engineering school. And so that was my thinking when I considered this role, if you want to be able to make a difference societally, to make people's lives better, this is where we can do it. And the key venue, the key avenue that we have to do that is through our research. And so if I hadn't known that the people around me are extremely good, but also kind to one another, which isn't the case everywhere. So I think that's special about Duke. And that they're really motivated to make a difference. I probably would not have done this. But in this way, I did want to know what is the broader scope of our research. What do we actually do, and where can we make a difference?
So thank you. And I do remember also as I was starting in various points in my career, as I was starting different administrative roles, I remember having the feeling of having a fire hose pointed at me with all the new information. And it was a very exciting time. But I was curious, what has surprised you I know you've only been in your roles for a few months, but what has surprised you? And Volker, maybe I could start with you.
Yeah. And I will say so far, my surprise, because I know Duke has been limited. So I know we need processes. We need to make sure that people feel supported in their research. We need to have somebody to talk, people to talk to and address their problems. And that is what has happened. So the surprise perhaps is the multifacetedness of the questions and who asks versus who doesn't ask. That's a very interesting experience, but it's a little surprise, right? It's not yet a big surprise in the way we operate.
Yeah, I think part of my realization has been that there's so many resources available for you. Almost like I have this great idea, and then I realize there's something in Jenny's office that's already doing that great idea. And then the second thought will be that if I, in this role, have been in Duke a very long time and served as department chair, now in dean's role, and if I don't know that exists, then I feel like many of my colleagues aren't going to know that exists as well. And so we really do have this challenge to be a wonderful institution with amazing resources. We have this communication gap where people don't know what's out there and how to access it. And so I can see that one of the biggest challenges, not necessarily creating new things, but to making sure that our colleagues, our faculty, our students feel like they understand those things and can appreciate the breadth of resources. I don't want them all to be, in some ways, like, it's okay for me to be drinking from the fire hose because that's my role, but I don't want all my junior colleagues to have to do that from day one. I'd rather them have guidance to help them understand what the resources are that they need to be successful. And so I see that one of our roles, probably people on the stage, is that we can help everyone else navigate a complex environment, understand the resources, and then we're successful.
That's right. Yeah, thank you. You both touched on this in your answer to the first question, but one of the fun things about being an associate dean for research is that you do get to learn about the breadth of research across your school, and that's really far outside of your own narrow area of research. And as you've started to learn about this, and I know that there are, once again, you've only been at this for a couple of months, so there's still so much. Are there areas of research that you're really excited about in your school?
Yeah, I could say in my case, the things that I'm most excited, let's say I'm most excited learning about are where there's a sort of consilient topic that moves across levels. So, like for example, our school just started up a initiative in basically connections between AI and human behavior. And what's exciting about that is it's a space where people can play in everybody from ethicists to social scientists to computer scientists. And there's a huge range of folks that can be brought to bear on topics. And I see things like that. I can see topics like, let's say, maternal health that folks are connecting in humanities, folks are connecting in the social sciences, and of course, there's people doing studies in animal models within my own department. That sort of work happens at universities, and it's something I think we should all be particularly proud of because the work that we do as individuals is actually touching on work for many of our colleagues. And so it's not just the work I'm excited about. When I see that work, I'm excited of seeing my colleagues working with each other. And I feel like if we can help support that sort of cross-disciplinary science, then we're really taking advantage of what makes students.
Right. And in my case, the answer to the areas that I'm excited about within Pratt is right. It's all of them in a sense. And this is really true. So I looked up. So we have, as you may know, a very organized and so I brought this for that reason too. So there is the front page of the Pratt School of Engineering. It has the Duke Engineering Impact Report. And so to me, as an associate dean, this report is actually immensely helpful because it says what we actually do. And it has high-level detail, but it has also a lot of detail in what we do as a school. And we have 133 tenure track faculty members and 177 total faculty members. And so you'd count those. Those are all very bright individuals. They work in energy materials, which is an area that I'm in. They work in computation. They work in AI. They work in robotics. They work in interfacing with the medical school in many, many ways, and much more that I haven't mentioned just now. But their ideas alone are diverse, but they're very good and very interesting, and they move the world forward. But then I forgot to mention the 6,000 students, right? So I actually took this from this report, of which about 600 are graduate students and 1,700 or so are 2,700, I think, are undergraduate students. They are active in research. So in fact, the 133 faculty members are all nice and well, but it's the creativity of the grad students, the undergrad students, even the postdoctoral researchers that carry the research enterprise forward that make this what it is. And so because of that breadth and because of the idea of that many people, that makes it exciting, and I think at Duke that really is true, right? We have a lot of very exciting ideas that are ubiquitous and super interesting.
And you both touched on this as well in this answer, but maybe you could expand a little bit. Where do you see opportunities to work with other schools as well as with organizations that are outside of Duke, and really to make societal impact?
So I'm reminded of something some years ago. We had, many of you may know, we had a Center for Genome Science and Policy that existed, and it's one of the few things at Duke that disappeared over time. So one of the reasons I think it disappeared is because genomics became something that was just pervasive, that it wasn't just siloed, it was spread around everywhere else on campus. And there's themes like that. There's things like computation, like networks, that are really becoming embedded throughout all of what we do. And so what I'm and some of them particularly excited about, there's these sets of things where they used to be like siloed and they're starting to spread out. Like, for example, I'm taking an example of network analysis, something that would be a computational idea, which is now endemic to sociology, it's endemic to neuroscience. And what I would be hopeful of is that we can find sets of those ideas that are really growth areas that we see not just in one traditional discipline, but they're pan-disciplinary connections that represent sort of frontiers of science, they're frontiers of science across an entire range. And so I should say, I don't feel like I would want to know what those are generally, but I want us to have the ability to recognize them support our colleagues as they get excited about them, take advantage of new funding opportunities, et cetera. So that's really, in some ways, I'm saying I'd like to be able to recognize the ways instead of identifying what things are the ways.
Right, and in our case, on the engineering side, in many ways, principle of engineering or the founding tenet of engineering is to do something that is useful in some form, right? And so I think the big areas where we can make an impact are often the ones we already know about, but we haven't solved. And climate and sustainability is a very, very important area, I think, at Duke that's emphasized and where engineers make a difference and can make a difference in my own area, which is energy materials, but also in energy systems and in related areas. Then, of course, within Duke, the connection to the medical school is a huge advantage. That's just across the street, and we see that in terms of collaborations that happen between the medical school and engineering, which are deeply developed and a part of our ecosystem, and which I think make a real large difference to patients. And then we can mention everyone else, right? AI is a huge focus in engineering, and that investment has been there for a long time, and it's rewarded by centers that actually lead this development in their respective areas and also more generally. That's what we do. We have robotics researchers who are incredibly bright and who are moving their own area forward, and I could go on, right? So, but these are where we can make progress, and we will. Right?
Yeah.
And thanks to research done here too.
Yeah, and I would, sort of echo that as well, in that when we talk about, sort of where Duke is going in the future, AI is sort of that ground infrastructure that's going to be necessary for so much of the research in the future, and so really developing those tools, is going to be absolutely critical for us to be successful. And so, looking to the future, where do you see challenges for your researchers?
So the burden that you alluded to, I think that is something we need to continue to navigate. And I think as Duke, we've done a reasonably good job of trying this and trying to explain what we do, not least because I just completed the 100 level NSF RECR training. So that cost me 3 hours on Sunday, but I did it. And so, but we try to explain the regulatory environment to our researchers and make sure that they're aware. And importantly, we do that at all levels, right? There's always a not tendency, a temptation to take the regulatory burden and say, this person is responsible for it. And then that person is responsible for all the burden and everybody else does not know. We don't do that. We try to spread this. We've tried with the data with a data infrastructure, for instance, to solve a really fundamental problem of reproducibility in the right way. And it actually works. I tried it. Right? But these are challenges. If this is not something that is easy to do for the people who are in an organization, it becomes a problem for them because it affects their careers, right? If somebody did the best job in archiving data, but they didn't have any publications, sadly, that is not a career in research, right? And so we need to make sure that we support them in their careers. And that's, I think, going to be an ongoing challenge for what we do.
I will echo those, but as additional things, we have to be agile in a changing funding climate. None of us know exactly what's going to happen in the coming months, much less coming years. There's changes in the relationship between faculty and students, and the research training environments are different. I mean, it used to be that every person who left my lab went on to a professorial position. Now they're going to Spotify and going to work at Xbox. So the research careers are changing in many fields. I think that we have areas of scholarship that are becoming a little disconnected from educational mission. We have to understand as a university how we balance educational needs, our needs for changing society and having impact from our research, where research funding exists. And I think very broadly that we have to make sure that faculty remain as the engine for all of this. There's a worry that institutions like us can abandon our core character, and our core character at the center of it is having faculty who are intrinsically motivated, who are not discouraged by regulatory infrastructure. We want to make sure that our faculty stay motivated to push the university forward. So I think if these are not insurmountable challenges, but they're things that Duke has some advantages over our peers, and I'm hopeful that we can be the one who gets it right.
Yeah. Yes. And so to sort of wrap up with a final question, as you think about the future, what makes you really optimistic about where Duke research is going? And one of the things I'll just comment on is that we had the Duke Science and Technology DST program, and we brought in 28 new scholars. And it's just been really exciting to have all of that new blood, that new excitement, and they're really pushing the barriers of their research forward, the edges forward. And so maybe you could talk a little bit about what gets you really excited about the future in your schools.
I can do one anecdote. When you say excited, the single favorite thing I've done the last few months, I took a tour of the Toronto University's nuclear laboratory. If you ever have a chance to do this, it's a giant facility underneath LSRC and the Nicholas School. And what I was excited about was not just seeing this huge particle collider that I sort of knew existed, but I'd never been down there before, but having several of my colleagues in physics explain this to me. I mean, I'm know enough to be dangerous, but I'm not an expert. And hearing them talk and just seeing the excitement as they're trying to explain why this is important and relevant was affirming. And then I realized that the reason why we do the research here is not just to solve world problems. It's because we're intrinsically motivated to learn something. And having that reinforced by my colleagues makes me realize we're doing the right thing. And so I'm hopeful that at some level, we do realize the instrumentality is important. We want to change the world. We want to get grants. We want to train students. We also want to learn and discover. And that last little bit is what's going to keep you motivated.
Yeah. I had the same experience recently when I visited the Duke Lemur Center. The kind of research, and I think the tunnel is the same kind of facility where it brings in people from all over the world to use the facility, just like researchers come into the Lemur Center to study the lemurs. How about you, Volker? What are you optimistic about?
So really it's our people, our students. But this has been an immensely interesting, rewarding experience so far to work with so many different people. And seeing faculty members who work together, who actually are interested in doing stuff together, who are motivated to change things, to change the world, about their ideas is fantastic. But then the students who we have, both at the graduate and the undergraduate level, it's incredibly interesting, fascinating to see how motivated they are to do things.
Mm-hmm.
But first year undergrad students that walk into your lab, they do have a research project and you give it to them and some of them are amazing. They really have the power to change the world and they're motivated to do it. And so this really makes me optimistic about what we do, because we have the people, we have the mindset, and I think we try very hard to foster a culture where we enable people to be creative and to work towards positive goals. That's a real strength, and I think that's going to carry us forward. I really hope so.
Thank you. So it sounds like we've got lots of optimism for the future. The future's bright. We have fabulous faculty, great trainees, wonderful staff, and the facilities. Some of our facilities here at Duke are really quite unique and really enable different types of research that wouldn't happen any other place. So I just want to thank both of you for participating in this, and it's really been a joy to work with both of you the last several months. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
And so now I want to invite Jamie Wiley up. We've put together some collaborative grant opportunities, and Jamie is going to talk about that opportunity and announce the winners.
As part of today's research summit, the Duke Office for Research and Innovation announced a call for applications to the Duke Research Summit Collaborative Research Planning Grant. This grant provides facilitation services and project management support to allow the selected teams to convene, strategize, and develop comprehensive research agendas. By addressing logistical barriers, fostering interdisciplinary collaboration, and facilitating in-depth planning, this grant empowers teams to tackle complex research challenges effectively. The Duke Office of Climate and Sustainability partnered on this inaugural funding opportunity to provide facilitated research planning for teams focusing on research that aligns with the Duke climate commitment. This partnership underscores Duke's dedication to addressing environmental and health challenges while advancing a healthier, more sustainable future. It is my great pleasure to announce the team selected to receive the Duke Research Summit 2025 Collaborative Research Planning Grant. These teams were chosen for the strength of their research challenges, the interdisciplinary expertise of their members, the anticipated impact of their collaborative efforts, and the clarity of their proposed objectives. Each team exemplifies the power of collaboration to drive scientific discovery and create meaningful societal change. All right, the selected teams are as follows. So Team 1, co-led by Dr. Anna Strasma, Dr. Nishad Jayasundara, and Dr. Mercedes Bravo. This team is tackling the urgent issue of climate change-related kidney diseases, specifically chronic kidney disease of unknown etiology. Bringing together experts in nephrology, environmental health, toxicology, epidemiology, and community-based participatory research, their collaborative approach seeks to uncover the underlying causes of this condition and develop strategies to mitigate its impact on vulnerable populations. All right, Team 2. Congratulations to the team led by Dr. Jessica Ma. This team is dedicated to enhancing goals of care communication in palliative care. Their work focuses on ensuring medical treatments align with patient values and preferences, ultimately improving the quality of care. The team includes senior and junior faculty, clinicians, and researchers with expertise in palliative care, communication, behavioral interventions, disparities, data analytics, and implementation science. All right, number 3, congratulations to the team led by Dr. Emily Bernhardt. This team is focused on advancing environmental intelligence to address planetary change. With expertise spanning ecosystem ecology, marine conservation, hydrology, environmental data analytics, behavioral decision-making, and engineering solutions, their multidisciplinary approach will develop innovative strategies for transforming complex environmental data sets into actionable insights while emphasizing energy efficiency and ethical data use. The next team, I don't think we have a slide for them, but congratulations to Dr. Leanne Gilbertson and Dr. Van Gogh. This team is focused on sustainable energy transition through critical resources, minerals, and materials. With expertise spanning material design, environmental impact analysis, water quality, global environmental politics, and energy materials characterization, their multidisciplinary approach is essential to addressing the complex challenges of a sustainable energy future. All right, Team 5, led by Dr. Tran and Dr. Devi, this team brings together a diverse group of researchers, clinicians, trainees, and community health advocates to address disparities in rare cancer care, specifically inflammatory breast cancer. Their innovative bench-to-bedside to curbside approach combines laboratory discoveries with community-engaged strategies to improve awareness, diagnosis, and treatment of this aggressive and rare cancer. All right, and last but not least, team number 6, led by Dr. Hayden Bosworth. This team is focused on understanding and mitigating the impacts of climate change on cardiometabolic health. With expertise spanning health services research, climate and health data analytics, community engagement, and policy development, their multidisciplinary approach seeks to address health disparities and promote equitable, climate-resistant healthcare systems through innovative, evidence-based interventions. We extend our sincere congratulations to all the selected teams. Your work represents Duke's commitment to advancing impactful research and collaboration. We look forward to the discoveries and innovations that will emerge from your efforts and the lasting contributions you will make towards improving societal and global outcomes.